Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. It's available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast player of your choice. So subscribe for free if you're one of those people who is listening on a web browser. And remember to give me a 5-star review because so far I have only received 5-star reviews on no matter what the platform is. Now before we begin, apologies because this is an out and about recording. So expect to hear people in the background, cars driving by, birds, all that good stuff. So today on the show, today is going to be a summary, another summary or recap episode, and it's going to be a recap of the EDOOFA series. EDOOFA is the International Student Exchange Program based out of India, where they have campuses and they get people from the African continent, expose them to a world-class education and also world-class working opportunities, especially remote working opportunities. So, if you'd like to hear some more, then listen to the older episodes that have EDOOFA in the title or look for them on LinkedIn and you'll get caught up to speed. So, in the month of September, I did a series of webinars with them. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 webinars. I think we were aiming for 5, but we only ended up going through 4 of them, and these were the topics. The first one was on entrepreneurship. Why should everyone at least try to go down the entrepreneurship road? The second one was on critical thinking and problem solving, how to become the wisest person in the room. After that, we did networking, how can people around you help build your career? And the final one was on communication skills, how to be the best storyteller. So, summary, my argument for entrepreneurship was that everyone should go down that road because in getting to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to exercise certain skills, which are learnable skills and transferable skills that apply to every other aspect of life that you try to get involved in later on. So, in trying to be a better baker, wedding photographer, computer developer, whatever it is that you try to do, even if you're trying to be a trash delivery person, if you're approaching things from a sales and business development perspective, the skills that you are going to learn when it comes to handling people's trash, being on time, scheduling trips, collecting invoices, negotiating, all those sorts of things will make you a better pastor if you decide to be a pastor later on, or make you become a better politician should you decide to be a politician, and, on and on. Then for critical thinking and problem solving skills, my argument there was that critical thinking involves subject matter expertise. So we should all be the subject matter expert in the room. So if you're a marketer, make sure that marketing is your ish and you know exactly what it is that you're doing. In the same way that if we have a a really creative brain surgeon, the brain surgeon has to be the best at what it is that he's doing first and foremost. So subject matter artistry. Mastery, sorry. Yes, so the mastery should be the first thing. And then after that, when it comes to critical thinking and problem solving skills, first off, we need to be sure that we have the right data that we are examining in the first place. And so I tried to bring to bear on the cohort from EDOOFA that what you should be doing is using conversation skills to try and figure out the data you need, the problem that you're working on in the first place, before you can now apply critical thinking. So that was my argument for that session. Number one, subject matter expertise and mastery. So that's important. We can't get away from that. After that, we need to be sure that we have the right data in the first place and that we're tackling the right kind of problem, and that involves talking to people. It's only then that we can apply critical thinking skills. For networking, I try to expose them to the idea that networking is not about going out and handing business cards, but it does involve sorting through contacts. And the only way that you can sort through contacts is using simple, open, friendly, conversational frameworks where you're trying to figure out who is this person, what are they about, where are they heading, what are their motivations. If you figure that out, you already know what your own motivations are and where you are heading. So it's only by figuring out who is important in the room that you can now come up with a plan for who do I keep in touch with, who should I fashi, who should I avoid, who should I try and become friends with, that sort of thing. So that's what networking is essentially about: sorting out contacts, and not handing out your business card all over the place, or boasting about you and your business idea and how much money you raised and how much money you're making and those sorts of things. You already know who you are. You already know how much you've raised. You already know how good your business is. You already know you graduated first class. You already know everything about you. Networking is about going into the room and trying to figure out who is in here. Who should I build a relationship with? Who should I avoid? Who is going to be a nice person to have around? All those sorts of things. Then finally, on communication skills and how to be the best storyteller, I try to impress upon the class that for communication skills, I try to impress on them that first of all, if people are not taking action after they listen to you or listen to your story, then communication has not taken place. Because communication is not just about passing across information, but it's about making sure that you have a desired result. So when you communicate something to your children, you don't just pass across information. You are hoping that by telling your boys and your girls something, that they're going to do something in return. They're going to do a desired result. And so it's the same, whether in marketing, advertising, politics, religion. What's the point of a pastor who can stay on stage and craft wonderful, beautiful stories, but then people leave the congregation and do absolutely nothing? So we just sit down and listen to a pointless story. So communication skills, storytelling, it's about what people do in response to what they have heard from you. So let's not waste too much time worrying about how well we are crafting. Well, crafting the message is important, but we should be focused on impact and what people do afterwards. So that's a summary of all the things that we discussed with EDOOFA. Now, the reason why I'm making this summary episode is just so that the EDOOFians have another by the way, that's what they call themselves. So that the EDOOFians have another resource. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about that. There was a phone call that I had to attend to. Okay, so where was I? So this is supposed to be a summary episode, just so that people can see how all these topics tie in together. Now, unfortunately, something has come up that demands my attention, so I'm going to pause this recording right now, and then I'll be back with you guys in a jiffy. Okay, I am back. Really sorry for the starting and stopping in this particular episode. I know it must seem jarring to you, dear listener, but there was something that I had to attend to. Okay, so if I remember correctly, I had gone over the different sessions that I had with EDOOFA on entrepreneurship, critical thinking, networking, and communication skills. And I think I already pointed out that this is a summary episode for the good folks at EDOOFA, so they just have one more resource to see how everything ties together. So what all these topics have in common, and this is what they have in common basically. In coming up with these topics, the EDOOFA executives and I thought that these are good topics that are necessary for career success and for business success, because eventually folks are going to finish their program over there in India, and most folks are going to go back home, and whether you choose to build a career or a business in your host country or to relocate or whatever, I would believe that these are topics that will be necessary to push you guys through. So for entrepreneurship skills, in discussing entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship skills, like I said, that's all about interpersonal skills, relationship skills that will enhance your network and increase the ability you have to build alliances, build strategic partnerships in your career or in your community. That's when you finish your program with EDOOFA. Then critical thinking and problem solving skills are important because it will help you to isolate client problems. That's for those of you who are going to end up like me, being in business and trying to solve problems for clients, whether you take the consulting route or not. So you're going to be able to isolate client problems and come up with effective solutions. And for those of you who are going to be involved in different things in the school, in the office, in the community, no matter what it is you do, critical thinking and problem solving skills are going to help you come up with the right agenda for wherever it is that you happen to situate yourself in life after school. Then Networking. Okay, talking about networking, it makes sure that we have access to all the people. Okay, the whole point of networking, rather, is to make sure that you have access to all the people resources, in quote. And I say in quote because it's not altogether nice to talk about people as resources, because people all have value in themselves. So when I say people as resources, I just mean in a very narrow business context. Like how when you talk about human resources, but essentially you're referring to people. So don't refer to people as resources. People are not objects. But in a narrow business context, networking is about making sure we have access to all the people resources that we need when we're trying to move the business forward. Or for those of you who are going to be involved in politics, if you're trying to move the country forward, trying to move the department forward, if you work in corporate practice, or trying to move the community forward, for those of you who are going to go back home and get involved in the local communities, in the villages, and in the townships. Then the final thing, storytelling skills. That was to make sure that we can be persuasive in the most natural way possible. So, we think that with all these things, dear EDOOFians, for those of you who attended all the seminars, even if you missed one or two, but you've listened to the summary episodes that I made afterwards, it is our hope and our prayer that this is going to prepare you for a bright future after your studies. Okay, now I'm sure some of you are wondering how come I can speak on all this, or I came to speak on all this even though I'm a sales consultant, and the answer is quite simple. If you haven't figured it out by listening to all the webinars that we did through with EDOOFA, you'll see that sales and business development is concerned about money, profit, sales, the lifeline of the business, basically. And so because of that, sales theory has a lot to say about things that happen in human interactions, one-to-one interactions between you and a prospective customer, between you and your upline, that's you and your manager, or you and your downline, people that you have to supervise or that you have responsibility for. So because sales theory has a lot to say on these sorts of things, then even though these are not my forte, networking is not my specialty, community development is not my specialty, all the other things that we touched on, those are not my specialties. But because sales has an impact on interpersonal relationships and all these sorts of things, I'm always able to lend a healthy perspective on what the way forward should be. So that's the reason why I could talk on some of these things. That's just in case there's some of you EDOOFians who are scratching your head and thinking, this guy is a sales coach and a business consultant, so why do we have him here talking about critical thinking and problem-solving skills? Well, that is because in order to be successful as a salesperson, I have to be able to think critically, think creatively. I need to be able to communicate effectively. And sales discipline, sales theory, sales practice has a lot to say about that. Then, in passing, no, not passing, well, final. Well, since I'm not going to be spending any more time with this present class of the EDOOFA cohort, one thing I want to say is sales and personal selling, in my own opinion, is the most important skill you're ever going to need. If you've not been convinced by the time we spent so far, well, hopefully by the time you listen to the episodes over and over again, you will see that if you learn how to sell, if you take a keen interest in personal selling, you take interest in the persuasive arts, it's going to be the most important skill that you're going to need in your families, in your career, in your businesses, involvement in your community, whatever it is that you do. And so I hope you don't even have to do it by consuming my own material or paying for my services whenever you have a problem. But so long as you find a framework that you can resonate with, that you can easily remember, and that you can apply, the easily remember part and the apply part is really, really important, because a whole bunch of us run around consuming all kinds of material, things that sound really, really fantastic, sound transformational, but it's not the kind of stuff that we can remember and pull out of our head and apply it exactly when you need to. In fact, I would even prefer that you find something that sounds absolutely boring, but can move the needle, and you will remember, than for you to look for the most brilliant advice out there about sales, personal development, and business development, and it's just something highfalutin that you will never need. Like some chap I found on LinkedIn talking about a I can't remember, but it's a one of these complicated shapes, an octagon or something. It's around innovation, and then different innovation skills and facets that you have to remember. So, I mean, basically, if it's 8 things that you have to pay attention to, and 8 things have 8 subsets, that is 8 multiplied by 8, and that's what? 8 by 8. Is that 64? Okay. Anyway, forgive me. Well, it's a good thing that my son is not listening to this, because I tell him how he should know his multiplication tables, and clearly, I don't know what 8 multiplied by 8 is. So, something that's easy to remember, instead of trying to remember a grid that comprises 64 elements. I mean, for that, you definitely have to pull out your book and try and apply something. But I want you to look for frameworks that are easy, simple to remember. And that's the reason why I take the approach and the structure that I have over here on the podcast, because I want it to be something that you can just remember. You're in a situation, it comes to mind, you apply. You understand, you apply. Very easy. So, yeah, that's it. So I would say for those of you EDOOFians, even if you're not an EDOOFian, but you're with some other academic institution and you're about to round up your studies like these young ones are, the only thing that you need to add to your education, in my own opinion, is sales training. You need to add that. Sales coaching, you need to add that. Yeah, this is a plug, but not necessarily, because you don't have to do it through me. Find whoever it is that you resonate with, the person's stuff that you can remember and you think can easily apply. That's the only thing you need to top up with your education, and you're going to be fine. Whether you're going to be a lawyer, whether you're going to be a marketing executive, whether you're going to be a politician, whether you're going to be a pastor, or whether you're going to sell diapers on Instagram. So sales training, sales coaching, take it and you will be fine. There was a final topic that we did not address, which was on digital literacy. How are people around you breaking through in their professional journey? So that was the topic that we didn't address. Digital literacy. How are the people around you breaking through in their professional journey? So, since we didn't do that, I'm not going to make that a podcast topic over here, but I have a few tips on how to address digital literacy. Well, number one, I have older podcast episodes here. We have currently more than 710 podcasts over here. But there are older episodes that I've made on digital quotient. That's something that lots of folks were talking about a while back, maybe like last year. And the idea behind digital quotient is in contrast to intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. So digital quotient is about adaptability and being conversant and familiar around tech and digital, being able to apply all the things there. So digital literacy, digital quotient, well, not compulsory, but it's going to help greatly in sales, in your career, and business development, because a whole bunch of stuff today is enabled through tech or has a tech component involved. For instance, my father was a journalist. He started off in radio. So for my old man, it would have been a microphone and things, basically him spitting out content, information over the airwaves. But now, 4 decades later, his son doing something similar, but this time I'm using a phone. It's all digital, a whole lot more distribution points, and I'm able to reach people in different parts of the world. Most of the listeners are in America, 30% Nigeria. We have some folks in Denmark, Germany, where else? Other parts of the globe that I didn't think were English speaking, and well, for some reason. Anyway, you get the gist. So it would help for you to start paying attention to your digital quotient, being adaptable, being curious, being eager to learn, and being able to apply. Because when it comes to sales and business development, you're going to be using tech to be able to reach out to people. Research them first of all. You should do some research before you reach out to someone and try to sell, especially if the person is a high net worth individual, or you're taking an ABM approach, account-based marketing approach to building your business. So you have to reach out to folks and make it worth your while and worth their while. So research before you reach out to potential clients. There are now more avenues that are available. In the old days, you needed to know someone's office or a friend of someone or have the person's phone number. Now there's LinkedIn, everybody's available, the profiles are visible. You can reach out on social media. You can do your product demos, show samples, do meetings, have discovery conversations over Zoom. What else? Google Meet, WhatsApp phone calls. I mean, the opportunities abound. And we can also use tech to build our career, use tech for networking, virtual work, all kinds of things. The promise abounds. But anyway, the details are in the older episodes around digital quotient. So there's no need for another seminar on that. So that's it for today, folks. If you love what you've been hearing on the podcast and you run a business incubator, you're into entrepreneurial business, entrepreneurial development, you run some educational institution, things like that, you have students and you want to expose them to sales and business development coaching, but you don't have anyone on tap, you don't have anyone on speed dial that you can call for those sorts of things, then hit me up on 080-6466-2140. You can call, SMS, WhatsApp, or Telegram. Also, follow me on socials, especially on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my time these days. My name is Tavishima Agide. The correct spelling of my name, email address, they're on the website where you're listening to this episode, and then the profile of the podcast app where you're listening to my voice. And for you, dear EDOOFians, especially those of you who chimed in every week, every Friday while this thing ran to ask me questions, I'm still available on LinkedIn. So follow, hit me up. If you have any questions, let me know. And who knows, some of those questions might form the subject for a future podcast episode. Not just so that you won't be the only person who will be edified by our conversations, but we can edify other people as well and help them move their businesses and their careers to a new level. So thanks for your time and attention. Sorry again for all the start and stop and all that on this podcast episode. So I'll catch you guys at the next episode. And for EDOOFians, this is wishing you guys farewell, bon chance, God's grace, Godspeed in all your endeavors, in your careers, in your businesses, and when you return back to your home countries.